Okay, hey guys. So this is a little bit different of a video because this actually has nothing to do with scrapbooking. But I'm just decided to make this quick little video. And as some people know, um, one of my previous jobs was being a floral designer, which I actually have no experience in. But I learned pretty quickly. But I really love doing all kinds of crafts. And I have thought about incorporating that into my channel, where I might take on some, I guess you call them off the page, quote unquote, off the page type projects. And this is actually just a simple tutorial. I'm not doing any major projects right now, but I do have a few in mind. But something that used to happen to me all the time around Halloween and Christmas time at my job were people would come in and ask for bows. Bows to put on wreaths or different things like that. And I don't mind making bows for people, but it would always like interrupt me when I was working on something. And sometimes people were requesting a lot of bows. And there was a charge to do that, which nobody really wanted to pay the charge, but you know, this was my job, and I'm using products, so you have to pay me. So what I wanted to do was just to all my friends who like to make that kind of stuff, I'm going to show you guys right quick how I make a bow. And I don't have pipe cleaners on me right now, which means I'll probably have to go pause this to get the pipe cleaners at the end. So I always use a ton of ribbon to make a bow. I'm certain most of you already know this. Now I am left-handed, so this will be a little bit weird. But one thing I will say is I like using a thicker ribbon, as you can see. So we're going at a 2.5 inch thick ribbon. I'm not going to worry about the tails right now. And this isn't necessarily the absolute best ribbon to use because, as you can see, it's kind of wrinkly and it is a little old, and that's why it's so wrinkly. But it has to be wired. You are not going to have a cute bow if you don't have wired ribbon. Just as a heads up. So the first thing I always do is pick my length of tail. So let's say I want a tail that long. Now that's where it's going to stop. So I'm going to need to kind of go up a little bit further than that. So there we go. So I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to make a small loop like that. Ta-da! Now here's the trick. You've got to twist. You have to twist. So let's say this had, like most ribbons have a print. So the print's on one side, but the print is not on the other side. So this gold that you can see in here is not on the other side. If I was not to twist it, you wouldn't get the gold on both sides. So I have twisted it. I'm not 100% concerned that it ends up perfect. So it's twisted, and I'm going to fold in. And look at that. How cute is that? Ta-ta! That is your first loop for your bow. Now, the twists don't have to be perfect, as I said. Just keep pinching in the middle. But one of the things that the twists do, I find, is it helps just kind of give it a bow shape. If not, it just becomes like looping back and forth, and this helps give it a little bit more dimension. So it's all, I like to hold it and cinch it. But as you can see, it's back to being to the other side. So we're going to twist it again. Your middle is going to end up being kind of bulky. My second loop, as you can see, is going to be a little bit bigger than my first loop. And it's back. But we're going to twist it. And you got to keep holding it while you're doing all this. This is the trick. I can usually whip these out pretty quickly, but I've had some experience, and I learned like just by doing them from tutorials. So nobody taught me how to do this. So now I've got 2 loops, and you're always, always twisting. Going slightly larger for your next one. Holding in the middle, twisting. See how I did? Okay. Holding, twisting, and I grabbed it. so that I can keep holding my twists. Now, the smallest bow that I would ever consider making is a 3-loop bow, as you can see right there. So 1, 2, 3. I like making uneven numbers on either side. This is kind of a rule that we do in scrapbooking too. You know, like instead of doing even numbers of stuff, we do odd numbers. See how this is now naturally looping like down here instead of just keeping, it's only slightly larger too. This is what I find the twisting helps with, is now I'm getting a bit of dimension. Some of the loops are going up. Now I've got 4 in each side. The second size that I would ever consider making is a 5-loop bow. This is kind of the common one that I would use for a wreath, like a door wreath. Ta-da! Now, of course, that will get fluffed out. But let's go big, guys. Go big or go home. So we're at 6 now on each side, and they're still getting slightly larger. So 6 on each side. We're still twisting and cinching. And now it's naturally going up this way, which is nice. It's going to make a nice bow. So we're at 7 and 7. I don't usually do more than 9. So we're going to cinch it at this, at 7 and 7. Now, I'm going to pause my camera and I'm going to go grab a pipe cleaner because that's what I like to use to finish them. So just 1 second. All right, so I am back. I'm still holding it. I've had to do that, like cinch it off, and I don't get to finish it and I have to walk around holding it while I go look for something. So this is pipe cleaner, full pipe cleaner, just a craft pipe cleaner. And I like it because there's wire in the middle, but it's also a little bit thicker than just using wire, and I just find it grips easier. So there's 2 ways to do it. One of the ways, which is a little tricky, is this is why you would leave a little bit extra on your tail, is to loop this around. Okay, I'll show you. All right, this is what I got going on. I pulled that a little. Okay. If you wanted a middle loop, you have to take this around and grab it. So you've got this part of your tail and this part. And then you have to put your pipe cleaner in. This part is tricky. I don't usually do a middle one. It's coming around one side. I don't want to lose too much. Normally I would not. And it's coming around the other side. Like that. And then pull as tight as you can. So it's not perfect. You can see what I've done is that's that loop, that middle loop that came around, and all I've done is clasped it as tight as I could to the other side. So you can see you have to pull the middle loop down to avoid seeing the pipe cleaner, and that is when you fluff your bow. And I call it a finger roll, where I put my 2 fingers in and I roll it out like that. Now my whole thing is that you don't need that middle one unless you're doing a really flat bow. If your bow is staying kind of flat, you might want to see that middle one. Like that. I don't do those, so I will show you the easy way that I like to do them, which does not involve a middle one at all. So take your tail back. There we go. So this is how it originally started. And I just put a pipe cleaner around it. And I like to hold my hand there the whole time till the very end, cinch it as tight as I can, do a couple of twists. This will help it hold on to a wreath. Now, one of the things is if I need more pipe cleaner, I have in the past taken an extra pipe cleaner, cut it, and then twisted them onto the ends of each other. Or you could cut this down and then use floral wire. So it looks like a big heebie-jeebie-jeebie mess right now, doesn't it? Oh yeah, my light's on. One of the things this allows you to do is you can still kind of pull them if you're finding your bow's not sitting. One loop's bigger than the other when it shouldn't be, and I'm really picky on that kind of stuff. So, and yes, this is an older ribbon, so that's why it's so wrinkly. But this is why you need it to be wired, because you need it to stand up. If it's not wired, it's not going to stand up. So let me try to make it look like not such a hot mess. And the bigger your loops get, the harder it is to maintain it looking cute. So that's kind of the other thing, is if you go too big, it starts to not look nice. Now, a lot of people like using something that's called cinema, which is that mesh. It was really popular a little while ago. It's still kind of popular. When I make a cinema bow or a mesh bow, I use the same ideas. When I make, see how that's like longer? There we go, see? It's still loose enough that you can alter it. There. I know it's a little wrinkly. But see how they're just everywhere? It's just a big, nice 3D bow, which looks really cute on a wreath. So, a few things. Then I would, my finishing would be to measure out my tail width. And I don't like to do that middle one because it like if you cut them like that, like a fishtail, it frays the ribbon. Just cut it on a nice angle. And I like to cut it where the two tails are pointing inwards towards each other. I don't want to cut anything because I don't have my good scissors. No. Well, I have my good scissors. I have my fussy cutting scissors, and I would rather not ruin them on wire, because keep in mind, whatever you use to cut this is going to cut through wire too. So it is thin wire, but don't use like your special awesome fabric cutting ones, because that's not going to be good. So one of the things I was, there we go. One of the things I was saying was the bigger the loops go, the harder it's going to be to make it look nice. It's just going to keep going flat because you got too much loop, and the wire's not that thick in these ribbons. But a few things that I have done in the past have been, I have made bigger ones. I've backed these with, like, as I've said, I've done like cinema ones. And I use pretty much the same, but I don't do any more than 3 loops for cinemas. I've done burlap ones, same thing, but of course burlap is usually not wired, so you're going to end up with a bit more of a flat bow, and it is going to be really thick at the end. Like that middle part that you're going to cinch is going to be really thick. And one of the other things that I may do as another tutorial, or I might just talk about right now, is tree topper bows. And I usually make these every year when I was doing my floral stuff, and they were always big sellers. And it pretty much took, like as you can see, I could probably, so if you get like a big roll of ribbon, you can get maybe, I like to say at the most 3 ribbons out of a roll. 2 if they're really big. Don't buy, well, if you buy ribbons that have got like 3 meters on it, you're gonna need more than 1 to make a nice bow. And then you get stuck with, like, you have to end it and then begin the next section of ribbon and then cinch that and hope it stays together. So I try to avoid that whenever possible. One of the other things you can do though is to do double bows, and that is where you would take 1 ribbon like this, and do I have another ribbon? Something like another ribbon, like a contrasting kind of ribbon. And the easiest way I can explain it is I usually rip off like this top part here. And the reason I do that is I set them on top of each other, I stick my scissors down. Now, hopefully you've got a little spot. You'll need like a little hole somewhere to do this. If not, it's just going to be tricky and stuff's going to fly everywhere. But you would start with the ends of each ribbon together, like that. And you would do the exact same thing I just did, but with 2 ribbons. You get a bigger bow, and you get 4 tails. Not 8, 4 tails at the bottom, and it looks gorgeous. And I've made those for like swags for going down stairways. I've made them for tree toppers. You can get them quite big. And if you get like a 25-foot one, you're going to get a huge bow at the end. Now, because you're doing like double that amount, you can go a little bit bigger on your bow. I think I said the most I'd ever done is like 9 before it gets a little too wonky. But these are great. Now you can attach something like this to anything. You can attach it to, you can wrap it around, like, let's say you made a fake pumpkin floral arrangement. So you've got fake flowers coming out. You can wrap it around a couple of the stems, tie it as tight as you can, and you've got a nice bow to add to it. You can pretty much add it to anything. So yeah, that is just kind of my first little, oh my gosh, little tip, little trick, yeah, for bow making. Ta-da! Pretty good, right? I mean, not the greatest thing in the world, but now you don't have to go out and buy one of those bow making apparatuses, because what's the point? So yeah, if you need to slow down the video to kind of see what I was doing, anything like that, I hope this helps. I'm not the best at, this is my first ever tutorial that's like this, that's not just a process video. So we shall see further on down the road if I make anything else for you guys. I'm kind of trying to evolve this into a little bit more of not just a scrappy channel, but a crafty channel, because I know a lot of us like to double dip. We're not just paper crafters, we're not just scrapbookers, we're not just card makers, we're so much more. And I'm not happy unless I'm doing a project. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am the happiest when I'm working on a project and super happy when I finish it. So anyway, I'll be back soon. So have an awesome day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.